Once again, welcome and thank you for being here. Lots of folks needing more caregivers these days as our population ages. And we have a lady that's going to talk about a big event that is coming up in the middle of June. Her name is Laura Koger, and Laura is the program manager with the Consumer Direct Personal Care Division, right?
That's right.
What is that all about, Laura? Tell us about that organization.
Consumer Direct Personal Care, we specialize in helping people with disabilities and seniors who need some help at home, choosing someone they know to be their caregiver, and then we do the supports for them. We help the caregiver get some training, and we help them to get the services that they need.
Is the caregiver usually a family member?
It can be, or it can be a friend of theirs, someone they know from church, and we help people in all the rural places in Nevada where traditional caregivers can't go. So it's really, it makes it more cost effective for the state to help these folks stay out of nursing homes and so forth.
And you're having a big event on the 22nd of June, is that right?
The Nevada Caregiver Coalition is having the event.
Okay.
With Consumer Direct, we're just part of a coalition of companies and providers and nonprofits that want to expand community awareness about caregiver issues and try to do things that support caregivers and help them reduce their stress and make their job a little easier. So we host events during National Caregiver Month. In November, we always put on a luncheon for them. And then usually one or two other times during the year, we do other events for information and resources for caregivers.
How does a person, who's one day doing something else, maybe retired, and then is thrust immediately into this caregiver role? And I'm going to use myself, I know I shouldn't do this, but use myself as an example. I had a major surgery about 10 months ago, and I'm still on crutches, or canes here. And my wife, who has really never done this, she has for over a year now, has really become my caregiver, helping me, in the beginning, getting my shoes on and actually getting dressed and that kind of thing. And it's a different situation to one day be doing something and then the next day you're a caregiver. What's the most important thing that a caregiver needs to do in those early days?
One of the main things that a caregiver needs to recognize is that their own health is very important. You can't help someone else when you're not taking care of yourself. And we at the Caregiver Coalition and the various companies, the folks that are involved in the Caregiver Coalition, we focus on that. We try to help them get some education, recognize that they are a caregiver. A lot of times people don't, they hear that word and they go, well, no, I'm just helping out my dad, or I'm helping out my mom or my sister who had a motorcycle accident or whatever it is. You're right, they get thrust into it without the skills. They're not ready to do it. Quite often someone comes out of the hospital and they don't give you a manual. They just say, oh, make sure they get their meds, make sure they come back to the doctor next week. And so that's where we step in and we try to help them get the information and the resources they need, because when you're educated and you have the tools you need, that job can be a lot easier.
Is yours a nonprofit organization or is it for-profit?
Consumer Direct is a for-profit company. We are filling a gap where as I said, traditional services are when a company has caregivers that they send out to somebody to provide care. We are a support service for people who want to do it their way. We're kind of like, self-direction means that the person who's receiving those services wants to choose and manage and schedule and supervise their own people. And so they don't want strangers coming to the house. They want just someone they know. And if they live in a very rural area, they quite often don't have a choice to get traditional caregivers being sent to them anyway. So we can help support that arrangement.
Well, does your organization, your people actually provide the caregiver, or are they working with a caregiver in a home?
We're working with the caregiver that the person who's getting the services has identified. We also maintain a caregiver candidate list. So if someone doesn't have a caregiver but needs one, we have a lot of caregivers in the state who want to help someone, and maybe they are out of work from another career or another job, and maybe they're already helping their mom and they've done the training with us. So, hey, I'm helping my mom 10 hours a week, but I could be helping someone else. And so we have a list of those people available as well.
Training do you put your caregivers through?
Well, the caregivers receive the exact same training they would get if they were hired by a traditional agency. So because we are a Medicaid provider and we also provide, we can bill insurance companies to pay the caregivers, they usually have requirements. So the caregiver has to meet some basic, TB testing and fingerprint background check, CPR classes, and that type of thing.
I see that one of the things will be discussed on the 22nd. By the way, this is going to be at the Continuum, I understand.
Continuum, yeah, this is the Caregiver Resource Fair is what we're calling it, and there'll be a number of different providers out there and speakers throughout the day to help caregivers get information about financial planning, what kind of adaptive equipment is out there, what kind of stress reduction they can take advantage of. We'll have a couple of chair massage folks there and some aromatherapy and just lots of really good information for people that need help with financial planning, or hey, I'm moving my mom in with me, what kinds of things will I need to think about?
Yeah, and you know what's great about it, an organization like yours and about caregivers in general, you're keeping the senior, most times it is a senior, in their homes. They don't have to go to some living facility or something, and they say that's very important for the psyche of that person to stay in their own home, their own surroundings.
That is absolutely right. I just attended the National Aging Conference in San Francisco in April, and all the discussion was about self-direction and the aging boomers generation coming up, and we're going to, as you said, we're going to need more and more caregivers because it's been documented in study after study that that's what people want. They want to age in place. They don't want to be moved out of their home and their familiar surroundings. It's healthier for them in the long run to stay in a familiar situation that they're comfortable with and with people that they know and trust.
And thank goodness, because of our medical profession today, we are all living a lot longer.
Right.
That means really the need for more caregivers, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And with of course, not just Nevada, but lots of states are in budget crisis type situations, and the cost factor, keeping somebody at home and just supporting those few hours a day that someone needs a little bit of help with a family, helping to keep somebody in the community is much less expensive in the long run for everyone, including the individual, the family, the state, the insurance companies, and so forth. So especially with the numbers of people we're talking about, it's really important that we support community services. Some
of these people who require your services, can they use like Medicare or Medicaid or anything like that to help pay for the service?
They can. There are some great programs out there. The Veterans Administration has a program called Aid in Attendance, and they're also supporting caregivers now with a new program that supports the caregivers who are helping vets who've been injured since 9/11. They're now giving them extra training and extra supports, which is really a neat thing coming down with the Veterans Administration. Medicaid does cover personal care services for those who need it if they meet the income and the eligibility requirements. Lots of long-term care insurance. If someone has long-term care insurance, those insurance companies would rather help support someone in their community as well, rather than pay for them in a facility-based service.
And I see that long-term care will be addressed on the 22nd.
That's another thing. We're going to talk about long-term care options, and we have people from various, everyone has different levels of need, and sometimes, especially things like Alzheimer's, or there are some certain particular chronic illnesses that become really difficult to provide services at home. Amazingly, most things now, we have technology out there where almost everything you can think of, you can adapt it for the homes now.
That's what I was going to ask you. Your folks go out into a home and make suggestions and say, hey, you really need a railing here, or in the bathroom you need to do this, those kinds of things?
Continuum can do that. They have a home modification evaluation that they can do, and there are lots of resources within our community where we can find help for people who need shower bars and shower seats, and there's a great organization, the Care Chest of Northern Nevada, does a great job with helping people who need those types of things too.
When should a person who may be trying to avoid this whole situation, an older person, when should they know that, hey, I do need some help? Are there certain signs that happen to them personally? They're living alone now, let's say,
right,
and they're not talking to their family about the fact that they can't get the coffee made anymore in the morning or whatever.
Right, and normally people begin to recognize that, and you're right, a lot of folks don't want to admit a vulnerability, and I mean, we can all relate to that. We don't want to let people know that we're anything but strong, especially family, And I think people fear losing their choice and control. They fear somebody saying, oh, you have to leave your home now, and they don't want that. So, but it is important to recognize if they're having frequent falls, if they aren't able to do their activities of daily living, like making meals and eating independently and doing those kinds of things.
I think you have the same list that I have. Why don't you just run down this list of things that are going to be discussed? This is again on June the 22nd. And it is 10 a.m. at the Continuum. They're at 3700 Grant Drive. And take that left-hand column there and give us the points that will be discussed and that caregivers can take advantage of that day.
Right. The caregivers, there'll be information tables and handouts and some speakers that are going to be talking about stress reduction, adaptive equipment, help with managing medications, tips for dealing with sadness or depression. A lot of caregivers have those kinds of issues, can be very overwhelming in that position sometimes. We'll have information about the veterans care programs, financial planning, long-term care options, the benefits of massage and aromatherapy, and self-advocacy, which is basically learning to tell people what you need, the kinds of help you might need.
If anybody's interested in your services, your business, how do they contact you? And are you hiring people, looking for people? Do you employ a lot of young people or middle-aged people, older people? What's the mix there?
We are a multi-generational company. The caregivers have to be over age 18 or older, and we have folks who are caregiving all the way up to, we have a 82-year-old caregiver who cares for her daughter. So there are all along as long as they are healthy enough and capable of doing the service and going through the training, they are more than welcome to give us a call and get on our caregivers candidate list, because we don't directly hire the person who actually is receiving the services. We're kind of a co-employer. They do the hiring and choosing who they want. We do the paperwork, payroll, taxes, and that kind of stuff for them. I'm at Consumer Direct Personal Care, which is at 775-786-4999. And then for the Caregiver Coalition and more information about what we can do for caregivers, there is a great website at nevadacareconnection.org. They can get information about this event on June 22nd from 10 to 2, as you said, over at the Continuum, or about the other things that we have going on. We all year round take nominations from the community about special caregivers. We love to recognize caregivers, and every November we do a special luncheon for them.
Any charge to go to this thing that's coming up? So it's free. So if you're a caregiver, here's a good opportunity to go in, interact with people like yourself, interact with other experts in the field. I'm sure there'll be some legal people there.
Right.
They'll talk about end-of-life directives and things like that.
Right.
Should be a great event. Let me tell you again that it is on June the 22nd, and it's at the Continuum at 3700 Grant Drive, Suite A, here in Reno. Laura Koger?
Yes.
Thank you very much for being our guest. Interesting discussion, and good luck to you and your organization, and certainly all the caregivers out there in Northern Nevada.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time. I'm Bob Carroll.